Now, KwaZulu-Natal Premier Sihle Zikalala has called for a review of South Africa's constitutional democracy with a view of moving towards a parliamentary democracy. Zikalala was speaking at a Human Rights Day event in Ixhopo in the province's Herigwala district today. He said some efforts in speeding up transformation are being reversed by the courts on a daily basis. For more on this, I'm joined now by Premier Sihle Zikalala. Premier, good evening, and thank you very much for your time and coming on and joining us tonight here on In Focus. The premise of our Constitution, a consultative process, went around, involved a lot of people, including civil society, is that it is an extensive legal protection of all the rights of citizens of this country. It empowers that particular document to have the rules of the political system, protect the rights of the people inside the country. It explains all our obligations. It defends the institutions of South Africa and what their powers are and how they should use their powers. You are saying this particular system needs a review. Why?
No, thanks, Oli, and greetings to you and the viewers. The very same point you are raising, the principle of the Constitution is to protect the rights of all citizens. And the fundamental question is that the right of all citizens should also be enjoyed by all. And in South Africa, it's a fact that whilst we claim to have equal rights, there are those who don't enjoy any rights. It's a fact that there are people who are living in poverty because of the legacy of apartheid. The instruments that have been in place to transform especially the economy, to create jobs for the unemployed, have not worked. And in the recent period, we've seen a number of judgments reversing progress that the Executive Council is trying to advance in terms of transformation, in terms of support of SMMEs and cooperatives. Recently, we had a judgment about transformation in the mining sector, where the judgment was saying once the company has a BEE partner, if it loses that BEE partner, well and fine, it should be regarded as one that is transformed. And for us, that is nothing rather than tokenism. It really does not talk to what we're dealing with, the fundamentals of economic transformation. Where the recent judgment around the regulations by Treasury, the April 1, 2017 public procurement regulations. And those have been kicked out by the courts. Now it is clear that those who are opposed to economic transformation are now steadfast in using court to undermine the transformation agenda. On one hand, the legitimacy of government is beginning to be eroded. As people are feeling poverty, people are unemployed. They are not voting for court. They are not voting. They vote for parliament. The parliament elects the president and the executive. And when they try to put in place programs, those programs are to a certain extent reversed by the very same judicial process.
Well, one would argue, Premier, that the workings of bureaucracy and the policy-making process, that has got to do with the behavior of the political elites. If for example, once empowered, always empowered principle is the same as the expropriation without compensation principle, which needs to be discussed and reviewed amongst the political elites and ensuring that they pass those laws that are transformative and that are inclusive of everyone. It's not the Constitution that is a barrier, but it's the work that you yourself as the political elites should be putting in and doing in ensuring that, for example, when shares have been sold to a black partner, the policy states that they can no longer be reversed. They must be sold maybe to another black partner if that particular black partner wants to sell them forward. There is no prohibition in the Constitution for you to do that as policymakers.
Well, there are issues that are embedded to the Constitution. And there are those issues that are in the purview of the Executive Council or the Cabinet national. And you'll find that those that are in the Constitution are a requirement of parties to debate, agree on, and review the Constitution. And we can agree that often we have not gelled and agreed, political parties have not accepted different views and be able to amend the Constitution, such as Section 25 of the Constitution on land and others. But there are specific interventions, policy interventions, that rest or that are within departments. And those policy interventions are often undermined by those who are opposed through the use of court. You will talk of the tourism grant that was given during the time of Minister Kubai. They challenged that intervention till the court ruled. You will talk of what I've referred to in terms of the public procurement regulations that were effected by the National Treasury in 2017 April, and the court have reversed all of that. So clearly, you are now pitching up the judiciary on top of the Executive Council. And people vote for parties that are in parliament. And that's why we are saying, in as far as policies that governs the country, it's better if those policies are at the level or the final arbiter becomes parliament.
Yeah. It could be argued, Premier, that you are arguing for fostering stronger political parties, more centralized party power aligned to party interest, more centralized party decisions and party decision-making processes, over-concentrating the power on the political party. And recent events would tell us that that would have a severe practical impact on certain governance issues in the country. For example, if you look at a lack of cohesion within the party, which sometimes happens, how is that going to impact on decision-making?
Well, I think in a democratic society, firstly, we must appreciate that people vote for parties or for candidates of their choice. And those are elected to parliament. And those are legislators who must decide legislation and policies of this country. And if there are problems with policies, those policies must be tested, and the final arbiter should be those who are elected. I wouldn't agree that it is a concentration of power to a particular party. It is not. But it's a concentration of power in as far as political issues and policies of development are concerned, that should rest with an appropriate structure. And that appropriate structure is parliament. Parliament is not one organization, and therefore it cannot be argued to be a concentration of power to one political organization. Parliament is made up of various organizations, and it's better if issues that relate to the development and relate to transformation of the country are arbitrated by the parliament, and parliament should be the main institution that take those decisions. Three organs of the state, but you currently find that there is one organ that has powers to veto other decisions taken by another organ. You've got the legislature, which is parliament. You've got the cabinet, the executive council. Then you've got judicial. Often, the executive council will take decisions, but those decisions will eventually be reversed by judicial, not at the expense of the political interest of the society as a whole.
But one could argue also that even the courts themselves must make sure that their rulings are constitutional. So it's not just courts deciding to veto and block the decisions of the executive.
Yes, if those rulings are constitutional, they should be constitutional. But in most cases, these rulings are about argument between parties that are standing on contrary or on opposite sides. There are those who stand for transformation, they will argue for transformation, and there are those who are against transformation, and they will argue against transformation. So the two sides are arguing, and here the government takes a decision in the best interest of the people, in the best interest of the majority of the country, because we can agree that the majority is those who are governing. And then they take decisions. Those decisions will then be reversed by the courts.
Yeah. But that would result in undue partisanship, which in a sense would mean that if you're in a majority, then things must go according to the majority. The argument is that everything must be done according to law, not according to who is in the majority in parliament.
Yes, and that's why we are saying in terms of law, we must review the constitution and allow all aspects that has to do with the development of the society, the policies of this country. All of that must be taken to Parliament. And we've got a multi-party democracy. We have recently had a judgment that even allow for independent to contest and stand at the for seats in national parliament and provinces. And therefore, let's allow that structure, which is that parliament, which is elected by the majority or the people of the country. That must be the platform where you take policy issues and finalize them at that level.
Premier, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on and raising that debate with us tonight. Well, there you are, the Premier calling for a review of the constitutional democracy.